So you probably realize that YouTube isn't the easiest path in the world. It's kind of tricky. There's so many different things to think about. There's so many different technical things, especially if you don't have a background in filmmaking or content creation or any of that sort of stuff. You've got to think about, what camera to use, what lighting, whether or not you should use that Shure SM7B microphone, that all the podcast homies are using. So there's so much. There's so many different things to kind of learn to just get to the point where you can even just make a video. But if I'm honest, I think a lot of that sort of shit just holds you back from really focusing on the most important thing, which is what value you can actually bring to the channel, what value you can bring to your audience. Because at the end of the day, if you really want to create a YouTube channel which actually creates impact, if you want to do it in an educational way, in the way in which I'm doing it right now, value is the most important thing that you need to kind of get dialed in and get right. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about a super important question. One important question that I was asked that completely shifted the way in which I think about everything. So I've been asked by a multi-millionaire and a billionaire this question, and I'm not telling you like their wealth because I value like rich people above non-rich people. It's just that if somebody with a lot of money, they ask you an important question like this, they have the resources to be able to actually invest in the kind of things that you might want to be doing in your life. So it's important to kind of get this right, because I've actually been asked this question twice by two very, very influential people. I thought it's probably something to raise on the channel and to make sure that you are answering this question. And if you haven't answered this question, to kind of figure it out. So anyway, I'm going to tell you about one of the stories. I was invited out to lunch a good few years back by the billionaire. So the reason I knew him is because I'd worked on some film projects with him before. We got on really well. And he dropped me an email and just said he's coming into London and he would like to take me out for lunch. So I linked up with him in central London. We went to this incredible restaurant. This is a 5-star Chinese place. And he actually invited another guy, which I wasn't expecting, but I got on with this guy like a house on fire, because as soon as I met him, I found out he was a professor of consciousness, which is like pretty incredible. It's like, if you know anything about me, you probably started to feel, from the other videos on this channel, that's kind of my jam. My love for the investigation into who we are, why we do the things we do, and the nature of reality. So a professor of consciousness kind of studies those types of things. So I was distracted by this guy for like 3/4 of an hour, and then eventually kind of got onto this conversation with the guy that actually invited me to the meeting. So firstly, he just wanted to talk to me about some projects that he had, because he wanted me to help him out and possibly work with him on these projects. And once we got discussing what he needed from me, what he wanted, he asked me this very simple question. And it was a moment that kind of caught me off guard. And he just looked at me straight in the eyes and said, "Mark, what do you want?" And I froze. I didn't know what to say. And I kind of rambled on, spoke about a few projects that I wanted to do. I'd been writing a feature screenplay, some documentary projects I wanted to do. And I kind of was all over the place. I didn't actually have a clear sort of response. And when you're speaking to people like this, they are so used to speaking to people that have a clear vision. Those are the kind of people that they hang with. You ask a question, you get an answer. And I was unable to do it. So I completely fluffed it. And I left that day thinking like, shit, man, that was a lost opportunity, because I know, I could see in his eyes, the way that he asked this question was, if I could be clear on this, if I could answer it properly, he would be able to help. He'd be able to invest in whatever it is that I wanted to do. So in this moment, I kind of realized this is a ridiculously important question to answer. And I think like, you might be thinking, what a simple question. If someone asked me that question, I would know exactly what I want. But it's a different thing to think you know what you want, to actually really have it clearly defined, because what we want is basically creates the mission, the sort of like the place that we want to get to. So if we don't have this, if we don't have a direction, what is our ambition doing? We're like, what are we doing with our life? Where are we going? So I really started to think about this question, and I was like, okay, the best way to think about this, because I couldn't answer it clearly, was to reverse engineer it. And in order to reverse engineer it, to kind of figure out what you want, if you don't actually know what you want, it's best to think about your pain points. What are the kind of things that keep you up at night? What are the things that you're struggling with that you can't let go of? Maybe it's where you live. Maybe it's in your relationships. Maybe it's in your finances. Maybe it's that you just want to send your kids to, you want to be able to educate your kids in a way that you feel is going to be valuable for their future. You know, these are all pain points that so many of us have, and you will have your own set of unique pain points that right now that you are living with. So your desires, what you want, are usually focused around those pain points. So if you don't know what you want, think about what's keeping you up at night. Think about the kind of pain that you're experiencing in your life, the lack, you know, that you feel that you're missing from your life. And when I got clear on this, you know, it was pretty simple, you know, when I thought about it, because ultimately it's always been what I've always wanted. And our desires, something I've realized throughout my life, our desires are always shifting. You know, the story around the desire shifts, but maybe we have a simple desire that's been at the root of everything that we do. And for me, it's always been about freedom. And I break it down into three things. Like, what does freedom mean to me right now? And freedom for me when I was, you know, thinking about these things, you know, over the last sort of few years, was freedom of location, to live and work wherever I want. Freedom of time, to be in complete control of my time, you know, so that I can spend as much time doing the things that I love, spending as much time with my family, spending as much time as I can traveling, exploring the world, being fully immersed in the human experience, because I know how much of a gift it is to be here. And I'm halfway through my life and I just want to completely explore this whole realm, you know. I don't want to be tied to anything. And the fourth thing is freedom of creative expression, to be able to express myself creatively in a way that's sustainable. So I started to think, like, how do I do that? How do I get to a point where I can do these three things? And that's where YouTube came in. That's where this whole idea to build a YouTube channel really was born from. And the idea really became very clear almost a year and a half ago in hospital while my second daughter was being born. It was this, I was writing like crazy. I knew exactly what it was that I needed to do here. Everything is written out. The whole worldview, the whole philosophy around everything that I'm doing was written in the hospital during that time. It was like my daughter was being born and then this new idea was being born at the same time. And I started to recognize that by building a YouTube channel, by focusing on building a personal brand, you know, personal presence, you know, online presence, was a way to create an online business where I could work from anywhere I wanted, have freedom over my location, where I could be in control of my time to do the things that I wanted to do, and to be able to work for it to be able to facilitate my creative expression and build a sustainable online business that actually, you know, holistically sort of works with all three of these really important things. So it's all about freedom, and it's all about setting something up so that you can create an income that can facilitate all of this stuff. And you can create an independent way of living where you no longer need to rely on everything else. And I know, you know, whoever's watching right now, you may be somebody who's working a 9-to-5 job and you're sick of it. You're sick of working for that person that doesn't respect you, whatever that may be. You may be a freelancer that's really worried about the changing times. You know, like there's not as much work around as there used to be, especially in the digital world. There's so many different things, there's so many different reasons that may be worrying you. There may be so many different pain points that you're experiencing in your life that you're concerned about. So it's really getting clear on what it is that you want. This question is so important to get right. You know, what do you want? What do you want your life to look like? Because once you have that in place, you can just start putting in the steps of like, how it is that you get there. And for me, building a YouTube channel and building a personal brand has been at the core of that. It's really the machine that builds this whole thing up. And then when you attach some sort of business to it, you can just be creating value, you know, expressing yourself creatively, solving people's problems, helping people in exactly the same way in which I'm doing right now. This is an educational channel where I'm helping you grow your YouTube channels, build your personal brands, teach you how to do the whole thing, like filming, lighting, storytelling, audio, all the technical things, all the optimization, all that sort of stuff, as well as the most important thing, which is helping you actually find your story. being able to extract the thing inside of you, the value, and bring it out into the world and articulate it and share it in a way that actually helps other people in a valuable way. And when you can create value online, if you can build an audience and create value for them, that value then turns into an income, a sustainable income that you can feed back into the whole system and really start to build this life. It's all about creating the work, creating the life, creating the life that you want by using the skills that you have, by using the expertise that you have, by extracting the interests, your unique view, the path that you've taken that makes you unique, because you're the only person that can tell the story in the way in which you can, because you're the only one that's lived the life in that way. So there's a lot of people that's doing this sort of stuff, but it's about bringing your thing and finding your tribe. And that question, what do I want, by building this channel's only been available. It's only been live for a few months. There's a lot of thought that went into it, a lot of planning, but I'm already on the road. I'm already on the way to unlocking these three aspects: freedom of location, freedom of time, and freedom to work creatively. Because I've been building this online business that's attached to it, and it's incredible. So I would just suggest to get clear on that question, and really answer the question for yourself. What do you want? What do you want your life to feel like? What do you want it to look like? Reverse engineer the whole thing, put the steps in place, and then find your way there. And on this channel, in my free school community, there'll be a link in the description. We're talking about all this sort of stuff. I'm helping you along the way. I'm helping you build the channel. I'm helping you with the personal brand. I'm helping you with every single aspect of it. Let me know what you want in the comments, the kind of things that you want in the next videos, but really start to answer this question. What do you want?